Hello and welcome to Good or Bad. There's a new Godzilla movie out, which means I am compelled to look at the last one. That's right, Gareth Edwards' 2014 movie, which relaunched Godzilla. Which I believe is the third movie simply titled Godzilla. It's as bad as Halloween for names, it really is. Now I do wonder, what with this being a Godzilla review, how long it will be before...
Hello!
Yeah, that.
So Godzilla, did you just love it?
Yeah, I do, but...
Okay, are we gonna have some problems?
Look, I do like it, I really do. But the movie has some fairly big problems. But when it's good, I love it. When it's not, I find it a little bland.
Hey, you take that back!
Well, this should be fun. Godzilla, everyone! Right, I want to kick this off with how the movie looks.
It looks amazing.
I agree, and firstly, let's just say, Godzilla looks great. Honestly, in my opinion, he looks better than he's ever done in any other movie.
The design looks great, and the CGI totally 100% backs it up.
Yeah, and remember, that was one problem we both had with the '98 movie. The design was good, not very Godzilla-y, but it was still good. But the CGI was a massive letdown. But in this movie, that's not a problem at all.
Another thing you have to get right, and this is arguably one of the more important aspects than the CGI or the design, is the scale of the monster, compared to its environment. Godzilla in particular looks huge, which is because he is surrounded by skyscrapers, and we get numerous shots of seeing him from a human's perspective.
You're right, the movie does do a good job with that. But I just want to mention the '98 movie again. I promise it's the last time. Second to last time. Maybe. I know we both hated on that movie in our review, but if I could go back and say one more thing about it, it would be that it actually does a pretty good job with that as well. I mean, I know Godzilla is smaller in that movie.
What are you talking about? The creature in that movie continuously changes sizes.
You are right, and that is also something else we didn't mention in our review. But my point still stands. Inconsistent or not, that movie did a good job showing the size of the creature. And honestly, it used a lot of the same techniques that this movie uses. So I kinda just wanted to backtrack a little and give some credit to the movie that everyone, including us, bitched about so much.
Okay, but this movie has one scene that blows anything that the '98 film had out of the water, especially when it comes to Godzilla from a human's perspective. The motherfucking Halo jump! One scene in this movie has soldiers jumping from a plane, descending into the city that has been ripped apart by monsters. And on the way down, we see this in a first-person view, and it works brilliantly.
Yeah, because we have seen so many cities in so many movies being destroyed in the past, but you really feel it in this scene, more so than you do in movies like The Avengers or Transformers, or any other movie with a budget big enough to blow up a city.
And now for the other monsters, which are the Mutos, as they're called in the film. They were created from scratch for this movie, and honestly, they don't look all that good.
Really? I thought they looked okay.
What? It looks like the Cloverfield monster had a baby with a pterodactyl.
Okay, so you don't like the Mutos in this movie, and I will agree that they don't really stick in your memory or anything, but they do serve their purpose for this movie.
I mean, they give Godzilla something to fight. Yeah, sure, that, but do they have to look so boring and generic?
Well, you could argue that Godzilla looks boring. I mean, from day one, he looks like a big dinosaur. That's his design. It's not original, it's not very interesting, but it works. Therefore, I have no problem with it. Therefore, I have no problem with the Muto design either.
Well, I guess we'll have to agree to disagree.
Ah, look at this. Haven't we grown so much? At one point, we would have had a massive bitch fit with each other over this. But now, years later, we can agree that you are wrong and I am right, and I will mute you while we move on to something else. So the sound design for this movie is great. The emphasis it puts on the SFX for the destruction and the gunfire is pitch perfect. Look, he's still going. One sec.
You fucking pussy bitch!
So, we're talking about the sound design now.
Oh, I love the sound design. Godzilla's roar gives me chills.
No surprise that that's where you start talking about the sound effects.
Oh, come on. It's the most iconic thing about Godzilla, and this movie nails it.
Fair enough. So we agree then. It's a damn good sounding movie. That didn't really make any sense. But you get what I'm trying to say. The music is great too. The composer Alexandra Desplat did a good job with the soundtrack. And it comes into play massively during the big monster fight at the end of the movie.
Which brings us to the action. Oh my god, was it so good. This movie takes its time to build up the action, and the payoff is oh so worth the wait.
Ah!
What is it?
Well, okay, yeah, the fight was great, the action was great, I can't fault that. But I might just disagree whether the build-up was any good. But let's just talk about the fight for now, and we'll go over the build-up when we talk about the story.
Okay, so yeah, the fight is incredible at the end of the movie. You have the two Mutos trying to take down Godzilla, and they do give him a hell of a fight. They can slam him each other into buildings and just knock him around. And when he breaks out the nuclear breath and we see it charge up in the dark, it is so epic. And when he uses his nuclear breath again, it fishes off the last Muto and it goes right down his throat. And it just, oh my god, it's like one of my favorite scenes in any Godzilla movie. And it's like this movie is saying, no, that Godzilla from 1998 is not the real Godzilla. This is fucking Godzilla.
So you like the fight? That's what we can take away from this bit of the video. That you have some form of appreciation for it.
It's just so good.
You know what? I agree. It is damn good. But it's not the only action in the movie. While the fight with the monsters might be good, the rest of the action is more reaction to the action, if I'm honest. We see the human soldiers, including our main character, who we will get to in a moment, basically trying to survive everything that's going on. But the human characters do stuff in this movie. It's just they're not the centre of attention when it comes to the action. The movie uses them more as tools to make the shots of the monsters more effective, which I agree with, because the monsters are the stars here, not the humans.
The action from the soldiers in this movie is definitely not bad or anything, but you're right, that's definitely not where the budget went. But it would be wrong if it was. So I definitely can't fault the movie for that.
Neither can I, but what I can fault when it comes to the main characters is that, aside from maybe one or two of them, they are all boring. Especially our main character, Ford Brody, who is played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who is quite honestly about as interesting as a pile of bricks. And it is not his acting skill. I have seen him be a lot of fun to watch in other films like Kick-Ass and Avengers Age of Ultron. And I know what you might be thinking. But they are different genres. They both have lots of comedy to play around with. Well, to that I say, you are right. But at the same time, you're completely wrong, because you don't have to make your characters boring just because there aren't jokes to make them funny. So they wanted to make Godzilla serious. Fine. But other movies manage to be serious while also having well-written characters. And honestly, I don't know why I'm bothering to explain this since it's so fucking obvious. But yeah, right, yes, what was I saying? Yeah, that's right. His character being so dull and so forgettable is one of my major gripes with this movie. Especially considering we spend so much time with him. And as I said, there are other boring characters, but that's forgivable. But they give us a boring main character, which just sucks, and lets down an otherwise good movie.
Yeah, but his dad was awesome. His father is played by Bryan Cranston, who puts his all into this movie. In fact, Cranston actually gives a really over-the-top performance to where it would come off as cheesy, but he manages to dial it down in the right amount. He is very good at doing that, and he pulls it off in many other movies, and of course TV shows like Breaking Bad.
True enough, Joe Brody was one of the better characters in this movie, but the film shoots itself in the foot by killing him off in the first half of the movie.
That was one thing I wish they didn't do.
As for other characters that I liked Dr. Serizawa, who is played by Ken Watanabe, who added a serious tone to this movie that honestly isn't that easy to add to a monster movie, because it's so easy for a monster movie to look like it's trying to take itself too seriously. And this movie does take itself seriously, but it doesn't overplay it. You do genuinely feel like a lot is at stake throughout this movie, but it does it in a way where it isn't shoving all of that importance in your face. Independence Day is a good example of this, I think. Jeff Goldblum's character is written in a way that he is pushing how serious and how important what we are seeing is, but it just comes off as cheesy. Can I just say, I love Independence Day. It's a lot of fun. Goofy, but a lot of fun. But it does have those scenes, like his infamous checkmate scene, which is used to build up everything that's coming, but it just comes off as corny. Okay, yes, he isn't a main character like Goldblum was, but he is essentially playing the same role. He is the one staring at the screens, explaining things, and conveying how likely it is that everyone's going to get killed to death. But he does it with facial expressions, not one-liners, which is why it works so much better. And my god, have I gone on about his character way more than I thought I would.
Wait, what are we talking about? I kind of zoned out there while you were babbling.
Oh yes, very funny.
I like to point out that Ford's wife in this movie is just another dull character. She is played by Elizabeth Olsen, who also stars as Scarlet Witch in the Marvel movies. Which is funny because Aaron Taylor Johnson played her brother Quicksilver in one of those movies. Which I bring up because in one movie they both appeared in together. They showed so much chemistry working together. Yet in Godzilla it just feels so forgettable whenever we see them with each other. And it goes to show you how poorly written some of these characters really are. They aren't unwatchably bad, just not very engaging.
No, I have seen things that are unwatchably bad, and nothing in this movie even comes close to coming close to the kind of bad that I've seen. So, what exactly happens in this movie?
The movie opens in 90s Japan in a fictional nuclear-powered city,
where we see Ford's mother die in what is said to be a natural disaster.
But his father is convinced it's anything but natural.
The movie then jumps forward in time, and now Ford is all grown up, and is coming home from a tour in a bomb disposal squad, when he gets a phone call telling him that his father has been arrested for trying to sneak into the still quarantined city they used to live in. So he flies out there to bail him out, gives him a lecture, and then is very easily convinced to help him sneak in. And this is all because he is reading seismic activity that he believes matches up with the readings all those years ago. And indeed they do. You see, he believes that the earthquake was caused by something underneath the nuclear power plant talking. Now it's talking again, only this time something responds. Which is why when they are arrested and taken to the people investigating this phenomena, the monster breaks out and tramples its way out of town, killing poor Mr. Cranston as it does so. Which is when anyone watching this went, "Oh, but I liked him." I mean, yeah, sure, kill him off, but do it at the end of the movie.
So saddened by his loss, he makes his way home to his family.
Which is when the monster known as Muto, which stands for Massive Unidentified Terrestrial Organism, shows up.
Gareth Edwards said that these were basically the UFO of monsters.
And guess who turns up to fight it?
The Big G!
Although all the movie does here is whet our appetites for a big monster fight.
Which it delivers on.
Yeah, in like another 30 minutes from now. We're already 50 minutes in.
It's called pacing.
Which would be fine if we had interesting and engaging characters, but we don't. So all we're left with is listening to what they say and hoping it makes sense. Also, when the attack happened, Ford was trying to get some kid back to his parents, who got separated from them just before the attack, and then afterwards he easily finds the parents, and that's that for that storyline. Barely any point in doing it.
But the story does make sense.
But the child thing was pointless.
You're pointless!
That's just hurtful.
So, with Godzilla being seen since 1954, where they presume they killed him during the events of the first movie.
I like that they tied that in.
And as a die-hard Godzilla fan, I love that decision.
But yes, now that they know he is alive, they start trying to figure out how he fits into everything.
So basically, Godzilla appeared in the response to the Mutos emerging.
The movie explains that he has been listening to the Mutos talk, and that he is the great equalizer.
Godzilla wants to destroy them and restore balance.
So basically, Godzilla is the good monster and the Mutos are the bad monsters.
And the rest of the movie at this point is setting up a big-ass fight between them.
But because of plot, there is now a nuclear bomb in the middle of the city, which they either have to defuse or get as far away from the city as possible. So it's a good thing the film went out of its way earlier to tell us he works in bomb disposal. It's nice when things come full circle, isn't it?
So they deal with the bomb.
And then Godzilla sorts out the Mutos. And then the movie has a quick, oh no, did he die too moment?
But Warner Brothers smelt more money, so he lives.
And off he goes into the sea. And I love that the people are basically just cheering him on as he walks past. But anyway, that's where the movie ends. So, did you like the story of Godzilla?
I did, but I wish there was more Godzilla in it. I get that Edwards wanted to build up Godzilla in the same way Spielberg did with the shark in Jaws, but honestly, there's no point in doing that. We know Godzilla already. We know what he looks like.
I disagree with you on that, partly. Because while I do wish there was more Godzilla in the movie because everyone else was just so boring, I don't think that you can say that you don't need to build up to Godzilla because we know him already. Especially when you use Jaws as an example, because we knew even in the 70s what a shark looks like, more than we will ever know what Godzilla looks like, because one is real and well documented, the other is a made-up creature. Now you can laugh at the irony that Godzilla in this movie looks better than the shark from Jaws, but this being a new interpretation of Godzilla, if you show him right away, you may cheapen him for the rest of the movie.
But you have to agree, it would have been a lot better if there was more of him in it.
Oh, absolutely. But only because the rest of the characters are boring. But anyway, I said I was going to mention the 98 movie one last time. And this is that time. We have both said multiple things that this movie does better than that movie. But honestly, hands down, the 98 movie had better characters. I mean, granted, they were memorable for being corny stereotypes, but isn't that better than just being memorable for being forgettable?
And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but my God, you're right. That Abomination actually did something legitimately better than this movie?
But hey, let's just hope that the new Godzilla movie, King of the Monsters, does a better job. And just looking at the trailer, it looks pretty good.
Ooh, fingers crossed.
You have been watching Good or Bad, and I'll see you next time.
Long live the king.